Welcome back. Well, Union Minister VK Singh has left for Poland to coordinate the evacuation of Indians from Ukraine. With the Ukrainian airspace being closed for civilian aircraft, India is evacuating citizens through the neighboring countries, and ministers have already left to coordinate the rescue efforts that are underway. General VK Singh has already left for Poland. In some time from now, Hardeep Singh Puri will also be leaving.
Right, so central ministers have been deputed to oversee the evacuation process which is underway. They have been sent to ground zero, in fact, in the neighboring countries of Ukraine to ensure a smooth evacuation operation of the Indians who've been stranded in conflict zones in Ukraine. And as the situation intensifies on ground, there are several countries that have now come forward to supply military assistance and aid to Ukraine. And there are economic sanctions that are being imposed on Russia at the same time. We have Col DPK Pillay in the studio with us on the broadcast. Colonel Pillay, how do you see, one, the sanctions, the economic sanctions impacting Russia, and two, the military aid and assistance that is being announced by several countries? Is that going to help Ukraine sustain the aggression?
First, I'll take the question of sanctions against Russia. Firstly, we must understand Russia is not a country that has been trading handbags or luxury items. These are something that actually the sanctions will hurt both ways. Much of Europe, which has a much closer relationship with Russia, depends on the energy from Russia, the gas and oil, and they haven't got the alternative sources ready, and it's going to hurt them very much. And sanctions, if you look at it, has it really worked? Let us look back at history. You go back to 1453 when Constantinople, the Byzantine Empire, which carried out trade with China and the rest of the world, fell to the Ottomans in 1453. What happened? An age of discovery was set in motion, which they found the new trade routes and completely decimated the... So what human enterprise can find no ways. They'll find ways to circumvent anything that can actually... So sanctions are not something that is, going to cripple a country of the scale and size of Russia. They've applied it on Iran, they've applied it on North Korea, and you have other methods coming. If you put a ban on SWIFT, they've created the Russian messaging system to find. Russia and China have got into an agreement to they're going to come up with alternative reserve currencies other than the dollars. And so it's only going to improve, what may be seen as a, I think the key here would have been not to push, get personal. Here they're getting personal. They're trying to get sanctions against Putin and his key henchmen and kind of thing. That's something that's not going to pay them in the long run. Banning each other's flights. Russia is not a small country. It extends, from Vladivostok to Leningrad to St. Peter. It goes on and on and on. So when you ban flights over of Russian flights, you also have to fly over Russia for other things. There's something that is there. It's a two-way street. So and then cryptocurrencies coming in actually eliminates the kind of things that the country Russia can withstand. And you just need to study, have they really worked? Second, you asked me second question was on?
The military assistance. The
military assistance is, I do not know if really rushing in arms and ammunition at this time is what the country or the world needed. Because I wish the kings, in Achilles, in the great epic, the Greek tragedy, Achilles says if kings fought the battles, the wars would have been different. So if those countries, the leaders who are sending in the arms and ammunition should really pause and think about those poor Ukrainians who are paying the cost of the, the thing. So I think instead of escalating the conflict to a level where it has acquired a life of its own, what you needed was a mature, sane, people with wisdom to kind of negotiate them and scale down the thing. So delivering arms and ammunition is not what was required. Dialogue was required. You needed mediators at this time to get both the leaders, all the involved parties, understanding the key stakeholders. Here, the Russian, the Ukrainian people particularly, who are the ones who are bearing the brunt of the invasion. Right. So we needed to get that into consideration instead of and then even delivering a lot of arms and ammunition really doesn't really help it, because to use those weapons and other things also requires training, coordination. You need it's not just like it's not a bottle of water that you open and drink. Operating weapon systems, operating things requires a lot of training. It doesn't. Right. So that's important. So
right. So sanctions have not, worked at all against Russia. But the question is, what will? And we have a situation here in Ukraine where the Russian invasion continues, and the world is doing nothing but really watching these sanctions, airspace being closed, and military aid being provided to Ukraine. Is it really making much of a difference on ground? That's what we are going to continue to track. Thank you so much for joining us. For now, a very quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.